Filippo Grandi criticised countries that closed their borders during the pandemic and made no exceptions for people fleeing war. New figures show that Britain's food and drink exports to the European Union fell by almost half in the first 3 months of this year, compared with the same period in 2020. This report from Theo Leggett.
The combined effects of the pandemic and the new rules and customs formalities introduced at the end of the Brexit transition period have had a dramatic impact on Britain's exports of food and drink to the European Union. In the 3 months to the end of March, they were down 47% compared to last year, according to the Food and Drink Federation. Shipments to China, however, grew sharply. A spokesman for the Federation said the loss in exports to the EU was a disaster for the industry.
Theo Leggett reporting. World news from the BBC. The governing Conservative Party in Britain has suffered a surprise defeat in a parliamentary by-election in South East England. The opposition Liberal Democrats candidate overturned a big majority to win the seat of Chesham and Amersham, not far from the West London seat held by the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. A BBC political correspondent says the results are likely to make some Conservative MPs in normally safe southern seats uneasy. A Japanese former Justice Minister, Katsuyuki Kawai, has been sent to prison for 3 years for buying votes to help his wife get elected to national office. Here's our Asia-Pacific editor, Michael Bristow.
Katsuyuki Kawai handed out more than $250,000 to 100 politicians and supporters to help his wife Anri get elected to Japan's upper house 2 years ago. She won, but has since resigned. She's also been convicted of vote buying, for which she received a suspended jail sentence. Mr. Kawai was Justice Minister for just over a month in 2019, before stepping down when this scandal was uncovered. Japanese prosecutors described the case as massive and unprecedented.
The High Court in Delhi has warned that breaches of coronavirus restrictions in the Indian capital risk speeding up a third wave of the pandemic. Judges say they are alarmed after reviewing photographs of packed markets with no social distancing and few masks. Hong Kong people have queued up to buy copies of the pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, a day after it was raided by the police. Apple Daily usually sells 80,000 copies, but managers increased the print run to 500,000 in anticipation of the greater demand. The newspaper's future is in doubt after the Hong Kong authorities accused it of breaking the national security law imposed by Beijing last year. BBC News.
天天在一起，天天用心听，听见台北的声音。FM 93.1，幸福永远属于你。
公民总主笔，
方恩格时间。
谁当家？
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 你当家？
谁当家？
谁当家？谁当家？
谁当家？我当家。你当家？我当家。
我当家。
到底谁当家？你来当家。
Welcome to Residence Messenger with your host, Ross Darrell Feingold. Today, our special guest is, I don't even know how to describe him because you have such an interesting set of skills and talents. Jay Liang, Coach Jay.
Yes.
Now, Jay, you're a life coach.
Right.
You're a certified hypnotist.
That's right.
You're a tutor in some really complex subjects like pre-calculus. And you're a doctor. So
I was.
Coach Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank
Great
you.
to have you. Now, before we talk about all your various skills and what you do now, tell us a bit about where you grew up.
Okay. I was born in Taiwan, and I grew up in Vancouver, Canada. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was there since I was 8 years old. Mm-hmm. It feels like I've been there all my life.
It's kind of like being in Taipei anyway, because there are a lot of people from Taiwan.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, actually, it kind of felt like I was in Hong Kong because at that time there were a lot of Cantonese. Right?
So you learned how to speak Cantonese growing up.
Exactly. Right. My first girlfriend was Cantonese. So I grew up there and went to high school there, elementary school there. Mm-hmm. Okay, I went to the first 2 years of college in Vancouver.
And then you came back to Taiwan and you went to Kaohsiung Medical University.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my dad's a surgeon. He's not doing any surgery now. Thank God.
A lot of us who we're not in the medical field, we get a lot of our impressions about medical doctors studying medicine from like TV shows. But what's something you remember most about studying medicine in Kaohsiung, and maybe something that those of us again who are not in the field would be surprised.
Okay, I guess it's I would say the long hours of training, because when on call, it would be like a 36-hour shift, right? With the normal hours that you have, and then you have to stay there for 12 hours and then continue with the next day's work.
So we should just always be nice to the doctors.
Exactly. Especially right now.
But did any of the professors, while they're teaching you about how to be doctors, did they ever give some good advice that might be relevant for life in general, and especially for you now, you're a life coach, but besides just talking about the body and how the body works or how to fix the body, did they give some good philosophical advice to the students, or are they just very focused on the basics?
There are, well, like you said, there are those doctors who are focused on the basics. They are the ones who are focused on the clinical parts. And like you said, there are doctors who actually cares about you, and they would give you life advices, right? And one of the one, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something like, treat your patients as your family. Like
that's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you only mean like your close family, or also like that uncle you never really liked?
I think he meant the ones that's really close to you. I would hope so.
Do you hear from some of your classmates? I mean, are they under an enormous amount of pressure right now because of COVID?
Yeah, actually, I've been playing Clubhouse recently, and I met a lot of other doctors, and yes, they're very stressed, especially the medical professional. So I'm out of the hospital for almost 6 years now. Okay, I graduated, I did my internship, okay, but I never got my doctor's license. Okay. I tried, but I never came through. Right, but
you said you did your internship, and I believe that was in Taipei. That's
the first year of residency. Right.
What's the difference between working as a resident in Taipei versus Kaohsiung, where you went to school?
That's a good question. It's pretty much the same, except it's really hot. It's a lot hotter in Kaohsiung. I would say Taipei is maybe just a little bit more open. I would say in the hospital, it's pretty much very sort of hierarchy. It depends. It depends on which hospitals we're talking about.
So the culture at the hospitals differs significantly?
Not significantly, but just a little bit. Just a tiny little.
So you need to know which supervisors to be nice to, and
that's kind of it's every. I believe the world would be like that. Like in any medical well, I shouldn't say, because I've never been to other medical background. Okay, but like you would know which ones are the kind ones, and which are very down to earth, and you would know which are they meant business. So right, you gotta toughen up. So you would know, right, what to do, or what your attitude should be. Yeah.
Speaking of being tough, you told me before the show that you tutor the very complex subject pre-calculus.
Right.
What inspires you to do that besides making money?
Well, I actually didn't make that much, well, back in Canada, I skipped a grade when I was doing math. So I finished my math in grade 11. Okay, and I've always liked solving problems. Okay, and fast forward 20 years later. Okay, I became a hypnotherapist, a hypnotist. Okay, and I did a retrograde hypnosis session. Like, it's done on me, because right, I gotta learn it, so I need to. Someone gotta do it on me first, right? Okay, and after that, I think kind of the amazing thing was some of the memories came back, and then I saw this job online. They were hiring for a teacher, and I was teaching English, and then they're actually a school that we're all teaching the Canadian curriculum. Okay, and I thought I was pretty good at math. I gave it a shot, and now I'm teaching pre-calculus.
And you're also teaching chemistry, which is another difficult subject.
Right. Well, because back then I was getting ready to apply for medical school, so I had to take all the science, right? Chemistry, biology, physics, calculus, all that jazz. And so, so those subjects like math and chemistry, they are the ones that I really remember, right? Where it's because in grade 12, I remember I failed my chemistry in grade 11.
You better not tell that to the students you tutor.
Right. But I remember my teacher. He told me, like, he said, okay, he never in all his teaching life, he'd never seen someone who failed chemistry 11 but came back and take chemistry 12 and would ace chemistry 12. Okay, so to me it's kind of like a challenge, right? Kind of like so that kind of set my fire going. So I took chemistry 12. Okay, I worked my butt off and I got the highest I think it was the first test I got the highest marks in the whole class. Okay? Not the school, but just my class. Okay, and when he handed me the paper, I was like, okay, so now what? no, but I didn't actually say it, but I was thinking about it, and then, right, so he congratulated me. Okay, so kudos to him for being open-minded, and yeah, and then so that I think that stuck. The chemistry subjects, the material stuck was in my head. Yeah.
Do you find that the Canadian curriculum which you tutor on here in Taiwan is easier or the same or more difficult than the Taiwan curriculum?
It's funny. It's the same as I remembered it 20 years ago. It's exactly the same.
The Canadian curriculum.
The Canadian curriculum compared to the ones we learn, the Canadian curriculum in Taiwan and the ones in Canada. It's exactly the same because we just use the Canadian curriculum. But compared to Taiwan material, I would say the math in Taiwan it would be a lot harder, especially on the calculations part. Right?
And how do you bridge that gap, right? If your students are, I mean, are they bored with the Canadian curriculum if they learn more difficult things earlier in the Taiwan curriculum?
Oh, that's a good question. I hope they're not bored. I try to make it interesting because I know how it feels, right? When the teacher's just talking and then where you get bored, right? Like when you're listening and if either you don't get it or it's too easy, right? If it's either it's too difficult, it's too easy. But I try to make it interesting, and they seem to have fun, right? I'm having fun, so I hope they're having fun. Right?
And you also do a bit of tutoring in English as well,
right?
Is there? Let's be frank here. Is there hope for Taiwan to be a bilingual society?
Oh, okay. I do think so. I do. Okay, but it's gonna take. I have to say it's going to take a lot of efforts on both the teachers. Well, actually, on three parts: the teacher, right, the governments, and the parents and the students. So 4 parts. So it takes a village.
And where are we in this village? Who's doing a good job?
That question wasn't on the form. I would say the students. Yeah, I would say they are eager to learn, and whatever stuff we throw at them, okay, they are willing to do it. So I would say the students are doing their part, and like we got to up our game then.
The rest of society, the other stakeholders. And what about here in Taipei specifically, the big city, the capital? Broadly speaking, what's your view of the English language ability of Taipei's workforce?
It's interesting because I find it a lot of my students, like whether they're students or if they're working, most of them, they are very fluent in reading, writing, and listening, okay, but they're having trouble speaking. Right.
Why is that?
I think they just don't have the chance or opportunity to use it, because I kind of went through that process too, like back in high school when I was grade 11. Again, I'm not trying to brag, but I got the highest mark in my test in English 11. Okay. But I couldn't speak a word of English. I'm serious. And like that was just so weird. And I had no idea, and I couldn't speak Chinese too. I can't have like a decent, normal, or just a relaxed conversation. Yeah.
You know, even before the current schools are closed and study from home, work from home, you did have experience with online teaching. Online teaching's existed. It's not new. It's not something that was just created in Taiwan a month ago.
Right.
So looking back in your experience with online teaching, and maybe you could give some advice to both the parents and the educators who are listening. What works best? I mean, what do teachers need to do, and what do students need to do to make an online teaching experience productive?
I would say interaction, right? Because without the actual being, like the person being there, it's really hard to get distracted. And one of the way to get the students and the teachers to be focused is interaction. So there's a lot of interaction going on my web class, right? I would like.
But don't they need to limit the number of students in the class then in order for the teacher to be able to have at least some minimal interaction with a lot of the students?
I think that's actually it's actually doable, right? Because I've actually attended workshops with tons of people, like thousands online. Okay, but it really the speaker really needs to be aware, and then and pick on people who are not focusing, and keep interacting with the audiences. Right.
And for the teachers, the speakers, especially if they're teaching younger students, high school age or below, what else do they need to do besides trying to be interactive? What about, say, after class, after the online class? What else do teachers need to be doing that they maybe wouldn't do if we were having in-person classes?
Well, I think they have to assign the work that would be related to either on the web, or something you have to do at home. Okay, so something that you have to actually get your hands on, right? Because one of my friends, she also teaches kids English, so they would tell the parents to prepare the materials at home, and then when they're online, they would have the materials ready. Okay, so that's something you wouldn't do if you are in an actual class, because other people would take care of it for you. Right. So online study is really, we need the students, the teachers, and the parents to be all in on it.
So it actually takes up a greater time commitment.
Yes.
For the teachers and the parents as well.
I would say yes. Okay. But hearing from my friends, I think people are getting quite used to it now. Okay. Well, the first week, right, it was chaotic, yes, especially for the preschoolers, the kindergarten, right, the elementary school kids. So
did you hear any what we call in English horror stories about?
Yes.
Here in Taiwan, share some of those teacher horror stories.
Right. Okay.
Don't name any names or schools.
Right. This is from a friend of a friend of a friend of mine. Okay. So. Right, it's like this, right? You get the webcam, right, and then they're talking, and then, right, you would see a naked grandpa just walk by.
At the student's home.
Right, at the student's home.
Not the teacher's.
No, of course not. Right, at the student's end, right. right? So the half-naked grandpa, right? Or you would overheard, okay, not intentionally, right, but accidentally some conversation about some stuff maybe you shouldn't have heard, and then you'll be like, okay, like so-and-so, could you turn off your mic?
So what does that say about what the parents need to do to create the proper environment for their children who are studying online from home? What do the parents need to do besides just help with it? You mentioned a few minutes ago preparing the materials, but what about the environment? What do the parents need to do to set up a proper environment?
Right. Maybe have some kind of boundaries, like even if it's a very small room. Because I heard from my friends, and other teachers that they would set up like even if it's a really small room, like a corner. Okay, that's your corner, okay, and this is my corner, and then when I'm working, okay, you shouldn't be here, and then when you are in school, okay, you should stay at your corner. So it's kind of like compartment, like compartment size,
compartmentalized.
I can't.
Your English class,
yeah, exactly. Now I know which class I got to take.
Does it work though? I mean, can people really do that?
I think so, and it's kind of like a natural kind of evolution. Like you discover, okay, that this is a lot better to do, right? You have your space, I got my space, and then we'll all have a break time at the same time, and then we can come and talk, right? And so life finds a way.
And what about for the teachers who are still struggling with this? And now we're going to go into the summer holiday.
Right.
For the teachers who are still struggling, and maybe the parents could give them some help as well if they're listening to the show. What are some things teachers could do to really improve their online teaching skill? You mentioned the interaction.
Right.
But what else could they be doing? I mean, do they need to take some voice lessons? Practice singing. What can the teachers do to really make it a better experience?
I would actually stress on the mindset, because last year I was actually the one who hated online teaching. I hated it, and I thought, because I also do hypnotherapy, and I thought that teaching and therapy should be right face to face, in person, right? That's how we get the connection, the rapport, right? Okay, so I hated online stuff. Okay, but okay, as of now, I love it, and then it's this mindset that this shift of mindset that I started to do more and more stuff online. Even during my therapies, I would play music. I learned how to do that, and then I would put visual aids, okay, for hypnosis therapy. And so, but those are just those are there's so many tools we can use right now. Okay, especially just ask. Just Google it, right? And but it's the mindset. Like I had that mindset of, right, teaching shouldn't be online, teaching therapy shouldn't be online. So that limited me. Okay, and then now I have a completely different mindset. I love teaching online, and then so a whole, can of opportunity just opened up. Right.
What about those of us who are working from home and their mindset? We'll talk a little bit more after the break about your work as a life coach, but what can people do to improve their work from home experience?
You mean
do they need to compartmentalize as well when you're working from home?
Well, if there are other members of the family living together, yes, I would say yes. Because, imagine this, right? You and your wife or you and your husband have been seeing each other for the last 10 hours, right? And now it's dinner time. Okay, it's still him, right? That's gonna drive someone crazy, right? So it would be better to create some kind of space, and then and to have borders that separates. Okay, this is work room and this is home, right? So that it actually has an effect on the brain, right? So where you have a relaxed station and you have a workstation.
And what about the employers? Do they understand the challenges?
I'm pretty sure the employers have their hands full. I think, I think they're pretty glad that people are still willing to work and willing to continue this. Yeah.
And another challenge when people are stuck at home and gyms are closed, you also, in addition to teaching calculus and chemistry and being a life coach and a hypnotist, you also teach some martial arts and exercise related activities. Tell us about that.
Right. Okay. I'm a I'm a self-defense combat instructor. Okay, this workshop, it's called Awakening the Warrior Within. Okay?
Awakening the Warrior Within.
Yes, so it's kind of like life coaching and self-defense together, right? And it's actually from the States. It's our founder, her name is Dawn Kellen, and she's still in LA, right? And we have meetings with her every month, twice a month. Okay, so I teach the self-defense part, okay? So where the students, they would learn the techniques, and then I am the kind of like the, I act as a test, because they have to use their moves on me, right, in order to pass the test. Right?
But you can't do that right now because
we can. So that's on hold right now.
But people do need to exercise when they're working from home, correct?
Right.
They can't go out to the gym.
Right. So I think a lot of some of my friends, they are personal trainer, and so they do live shows now, right? So you just and one of my friends, one of the combat instructor, he practiced Wing Chun, and so we do have online Wing Chun too. So. Which
is something you could do safely at home.
Exactly.
You don't need a full set of weights or things like that.
No, just like a space. Right.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back with Coach Jay, we're going to talk about life coaching, and what that is, and we'll also talk about your work as a hypnotist.
Yes.
And hypnotist therapy. You're listening to Residence Messenger on Taipei Broadcasting Station.
如有长照服务需求、长照特别扣除额问题，请拨打1966长照专线，5分钟内通话免付费。一通电话让长期照顾管理专员协助申请长期照顾服务及解答长期照顾特别扣除额相关问题。以上内容由台北市政府卫生局提供。
不开车，黄色嘟嘟安全多，应酬喝酒不过量，安全回家最上道。爸爸要平安回家哦。
喝酒不开车，开车不喝酒哦。让我们一起尊重生命，拥抱亲情。
亲爱的民众，提醒您定期清除排油烟机内部油垢。烹煮食物时，切忌分心做其他事情，并注意人离火熄。 且厨房附近应设置灭火器，操作时保持适当距离。当厨房火灾时，严禁以水灭火。油锅起火也千万不要移动油锅，以免翻覆造成火势扩大延烧。以上内容由台北市政府消防局提供。
亲爱的朋友，您还在吸烟吗？快拿着健保卡到戒烟门诊，或拨打戒烟专线0800636363。提醒您，最近兴起的电子烟、加热烟，因为没有浓浓的烟臭味，就被认为无害。其实已经证实，新兴烟品都有二手烟及三手烟的危害，甚至还有爆炸的风险。我是义工蔡依林，所有烟品都 get out。我拒烟，我骄傲。
我是疾管署防疫师陈婉清。防疫期间，如果您是正在居家隔离或检疫的民众，请留在家中或隔离检疫场所，不可随意外出。若您在隔离检疫期间出现发烧、嗅味觉异常、腹泻、呼吸道症状或身体不适，请佩戴口罩，联系卫生局或1922，并依指示就医，不可自行搭乘大众运输。如果您有洗牙、健检等非紧急医疗需求，请先暂缓延后。
有政府，请安心。资讯由疾管署提供。
大家好，我是防疫车队的司机汪佑廷。我是一位专业的驾驶，在防疫期间负责将入境台湾的旅客平安送往检疫地点。作为防疫车队的驾驶，必须接受完整的防疫教育训练，确实做好个人防护措施，定时消毒车内环境，保护旅客及自己的健康。接种公费 COVID-19 疫苗后，不仅让我更安心执行每一次接送任务，也让家人更放心支持我的工作。
有政府，请安心。资讯由疾管署提供。
家己电台吼，家己主持咧。大家好，我是郭文铁，我伫台北广播电台。It's a wonderful day, Taipei Radio. You'll be happy in the air, Taipei Radio. FM 93.1。
谁当家？
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 你当家？
谁当家？
谁当家？
谁当家？我当家。你当家？
我当家。
到底谁当家？你来当家。
Welcome back to Residence Messenger. Our guest today is Coach Jay, and you're Coach Jay not just because you teach the self-defense combat class,
Right.
But also because you're a life coach. Tell us about the qualifications to be a life coach. How do you become a life coach? You don't just say, I want to be a life coach. So what are the qualifications?
You just did. Yeah, that was it. There's actually no, there's no like official qualification for a life coach right now. There's some, I would say, some groups or federation that gives out like a certificate, but you don't actually need one, right? So if people think that you're doing a good job, then you're a great life coach.
Yeah. What and to do a great job, what are I like to call them the intangibles, right? You know, everyone could look at your resume, Coach Jay, and you know, we could see, you know, you're a brilliant guy and you're a nice guy, but what are the intangible qualities, you know, the non-paper qualifications that a life coach should have?
I would say the most important one is you yourself have to be coachable. So I have my own life coach that's coaching me right now, okay, from the States. Okay, so we do a life coaching call once a week. Okay, and so life coaching is just we coaches serve as like a mirror. Okay, so whatever you say or do, we hold up the mirror and let you take a look at yourself, and then you would see your blind spots. And just by being aware of those blind spots, and that would actually have a change. And if you are willing to change and shift, that would be right. You would have a even bigger outcome. So that's basically what a life coach does.
Who in Taipei, you know, by age or the type of work they do, who would benefit from a life coach? I mean, we were talking earlier in the first part of the show about teachers and this big change that they got to go online, and change their teaching style, no matter how old their students are. Tell help us understand, who could benefit from a life coach?
I would say everyone. If you are, if you're in school, if you're above age 6, I would say you would benefit.
Even children?
Even children, yes. Okay.
And how would that be different, say, if a child has certain types of behavioral issues where the recommendation might be to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist? I mean, where would the role of a life coach be instead for younger people, children?
Right. For younger children, I would say they still need to see the psychiatrist or therapist, right? But then we can add in a life coach where the coach would be there for the children and just being there, because that's actually what children needs and wants anyway. Okay, we don't actually need to teach them anything, because they learn just like that. Right? They learn by observing and by mimicking, by copying. Okay. What we as coaches or adults have to do is just draw the boundaries and make the context and have them within those boundaries to roam around freely. Right?
What about other industries, though? Taiwan is a big technology industry. A lot of people in Taipei work in the financial industry. A lot of people in Taipei work in government, both the local government or the central government. What about working people? Who needs a life coach?
Well, I would say every industry, but it depends on which one you're in. Like if you're in finance, then there's actually a financial life coach, right? If you're in business or corporate, there's corporate life coach, right? If you want to get better or have a great relationship, there's actually relationship coaches, right? So it's just someone who's there to make you a better person, basically. If you're willing.
So you got to be willing. And yes, is that the first thing you tell potential clients? Look, you need to be willing.
Yes, that's same thing with hypnotherapy, with hypnosis. Okay, they have to be willing. Okay, because some people are not willing to change. Right. For example, me. That was me. Right. When I didn't want to change, no change would happen. Right. That's flawless logic. Right.
How much time does someone need to spend with a life coach in order to get results? How often should they be talking to their life coach?
It depends, and it differs from clients to clients. But I would say it usually takes about 21 days to 90 days to build a habit. So I would say, at least about 3 months, about 3 months to a year.
Of meeting, how often?
About once or twice a week.
So frequently?
Well, once a week, maybe an hour or 2 hours a week. So not that. Well, on the phone too. You can have coaching calls, okay, or you can have face-to-face, meetups, okay, but not right now because of COVID.
Right, of course. So, is this easily movable to the online environment for what life coaches do?
Yes, definitely. Because my coach and I, so he's not in the States. I believe he's in Barcelona. So and then so we just do Skype calls, and right now I think the coaching industry and the therapy industry is actually, it's a great time to start because all you need is a phone.
It's a great time to start for the clients or for the people who are offering the services?
I think for both, because right now, 2-3 years ago, there's no such thing as podcasters or a job being a podcaster. There's no such jobs, right? And I believe there's going to be a lot more jobs coming up, right? Just out of nowhere, and because of what the situation we have right now. Okay, and it takes. I'm just helping a friend, like the friend that I said, he teaches Wing Chun, he's the third generation of Ip Man, of Ye Wen, right? So and he teaches that, and then but because of COVID, he can't teach it anymore, right? And then he doesn't know how to put it online. Okay, so then I gave some coaching because we're friends, so just a little bit of coaching, and then I think he's starting to get the gears running now. Yeah, and it's because he's willing. Okay, so but before COVID hits, he never thought about putting his stuff online, right? So I would say all kinds of new stuff would probably pop up, especially for Taiwan because we just started. Basically. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you're a hypnotist, and tell us first about the training.
Right.
How long does it take? Who are the certification bodies? How does someone become a licensed hypnotist?
Okay. Right now, there are a few big groups or different kind of approaches. One is called NGH. They're all from the States. So National Guild of Hypnotists Association or organizations. I kind of forgot. Okay, but so you can take courses in Taiwan, or you can take online courses directly from the US. And I think it takes about 60 to 70 hours. And then you need to do clinical, you need to have clients and write reports and then mail it to the US and then go through the process, and then they would certify it.
Before we talk about the benefits of this therapy, tell us about the misconceptions. And again, because this is another thing where people watch TV shows or movies and they start to get some ideas about what a hypnotist does.
Right.
So tell us about some of the misconceptions.
Okay, so one of the biggest misconception is people thought I can make you go asleep just like that.
You just snap your fingers,
right?
Because you have a nice face.
Because I have a nice voice. No, it doesn't work that way. Actually, you will be fully conscious during the hypnotherapy sessions. Okay, because I'm going to ask you some questions and you'll have to answer them. Okay, if you fell asleep or doze off, then you wouldn't hear my questions and we wouldn't go anywhere, right? So that's one of the misconceptions, right? You're consciously awake during hypnosis.
And you could feel pain.
It depends. Okay. If that session is for you not to feel pain, because before hypnosis was used in for dentists, because when we haven't have the anesthesia, right? We use hypnosis to tone down the pain. Right.
So it can work too.
Yeah, it does.
You wouldn't feel the pain.
Yeah, and I actually tried it on myself. We've also practiced hypnosis. Right. So it does take some edge off. Right?
Is it like a truth test as well? Is it a lie detector test? Or is that a misconception that hypnotism can do that?
That's actually a good question. I think in the States, right, if someone's on trial and they go to a hypnotherapist, and I think that could be act as evidence, okay, but not in Taiwan.
But if you were to, for example, hypnotize me and ask me questions, would I definitely give a truthful answer?
Oh, okay. That would depend.
On?
That would depend on the both of us. Okay, so because one of the misconception is a hypnotist can hypnotize anyone. Okay, that's definitely not correct.
Some people are resistant.
Right. Okay. So that's why that it all comes back to the willingness we were talking about. Right. So the client has to be willing to work with me, and the same thing, right? Vice versa. I would want to work I would want, assuming that for every client I do, I would want to work with them, right? It goes both ways.
Because before I came here today, my girlfriend said, Ross, find out if the hypnotist could hypnotize you and find out if, you're cheating on me. So she was thinking it's a lie detector kind of test.
I don't think it worked that way. It works like that. Okay.
Let's talk about who benefits from. We talked about life coaching earlier,
right?
And the benefits of that. But who could benefit from hypnosis?
It's hypnosis therapy is very good for people who are nervous or anxious, because lots of what we do in sessions are we try to make you go into this very relaxing state. So hypnosis, it's just we put you in a trance state, meaning that you are in a very relaxed being state, okay, but at the same time you are very focused. You're actually very concentrated. Okay, so that's why, right, we would make you stare at things. That's actually helping you to focus, right, at the same time being relaxed.
So when you say people who are anxious or nervous, do you mean people who they don't like to speak publicly, or they just don't like to be in crowds?
Well, people who may be having trouble sleeping, okay, or maybe who are stressed out, right, because of COVID and all these new things coming out, right, all the transition, right. Hypnotherapy serves really well for, and especially for anxiety, right, for insomnia, right. If you can't sleep, okay, it's really good for. Or if you're like a workaholic, like you can, like your brain can stop, right? It keeps running all night long, right? It's good for you to to calm down, to relax, and then go back to your center, and then just live in the moment. Right?
And what would acupuncturist, or we talked earlier about therapists and psychiatrists, what would they say? If we ask them about the benefits of hypnotherapy for anxiety, insomnia, stress, what would they say about it? They say, no, come use our services, don't go to the hypnotist. What are the competing considerations with these different types of ways to improve ourselves?
Right. I think right now we live in an age where everything is incorporated together. So I had a client, they had their own physician, so a psychiatrist. Okay, so the psychiatrist actually suggested them to go for a hypnotherapy session. Okay, so same thing. So that it's also what I'm observing. Like we are working together now. Right. So for me, I would say if you had trouble sleeping, right, go to the doctors first, and if it's not working, okay, then you can seek out other alternatives like acupuncture, like hypnotherapy, like, or even just deep breathing exercises. So it's not to exclude other professionals, but it's actually to incorporate and include everything else. So you have a overall a better, right, as long as it works for you. Right, there's got to be something out there for you. It's kind of like the cocktail therapy. So I think we're at an age where everyone's working together, and we have to, because it's not working if we're working alone. I think we discovered that now.
And what about here in Taiwan, or specifically in Taipei? Are people open to this? You mentioned the doctor or the psychiatrist might refer a patient to hypnotherapy or other options for challenges that the patient might be having. What's the public reception here in Taipei to hypnotherapy? Do people just say, no way, I saw it on TV, I don't want to do it? Or are people willing to try? Because you mentioned how important it is for people to be willing to try. Are people open to it here, or is it still really difficult to get people to accept it?
I think they're open to it, okay? But they have the misconception where, right, if you, would you get, my password number out of me, right? And so there are some misconceptions, but overall I think especially people in Taiwan are pretty open-minded. And that's another misconception, like we as hypnotists, we without your consent we cannot get anything out from you. Right, because the human mind, it's very tough. It's very stubborn. Exactly. Without your willingness, right, we can't do anything.
Any difference between doing hypnosis in Mandarin versus English?
That's a good question. There's actually not quite a difference. I actually did telephone hypnosis, to Canada and the States. So. Not quite a lot of difference, but I'm used to doing the Mandarin one. Okay, so The only difference is I might need to rehearse it, right? But it's basically it's the same thing, right?
Coach Jay, before we go, let us know how can people find you if people want to do life coaching or they need pre-calc tutoring or they're seriously interested in hypnotherapy. Don't waste Coach Jay's time, right? You got to be willing to do it.
Yes, exactly.
How can people find you?
They can go to my Facebook, okay, and search Coach Jay, right, and then or type in my Chinese name, Liang Youzao, right, and you'll find me. I think I'm the only guy in Taiwan to have that Chinese name.
Terrific. Coach Jay, thanks for coming on the show. You didn't hypnotize me, did you?
No.
Because we need to wake me up or bring me out of the trance. Thanks again, Coach Jay.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Residence Messenger on Taipei Broadcast.